the 16th of June 2025. The question that I want to answer with this analysis is: do plants show changed electrical signaling behavior during geomagnetic storms? I have 6 months of voltage data from a conifer tree, Picea abies, and as a control I use voltage data recorded from a dead piece of wood. The live conifer and the dead wood are recorded with a different device each. These two battery-powered devices share no electrical connection whatsoever to avoid any kind of crosstalk. For the exact setup of this experiment in the field, see the video links in the description. My strategy for analyzing the data is as follows. For a given voltage time series, I will calculate the distribution of voltage differences over time, and I will then compare the distribution of these differences during geomagnetic storms to the distribution over the entire length of the experiment. Then, depending on what I find for the conifer and for the dead wood recordings, I can say something about my initial question. In the best case scenario, what I expect to find is that for the conifer, both distributions will be significantly different from each other, while for the dead wood, the distributions will be the same. In the worst case scenario, both conifer and dead wood might have distributions that are exactly the same during geomagnetic storms and during quiet times. I have downloaded the global geomagnetism data from the Geo Research Institute in Potsdam, near Berlin, Germany. Now I must define what I mean exactly by geomagnetic storm. I define it as the HP60 index being larger than 5. Reading in the data and plotting it in R shows me that I have a total of about 5,000 hours of geomagnetic data, and of these 220 hours have an HP value of 5 or greater. That is only around 4% of the data. So it is clear why I wanted to run the experiment at least a full year or more. But let's see what I can do with what I have. Voltages are recorded at 100 samples per second. Since I do not need that, I decimate the voltage data down to larger sampling periods. 1 sample per second, 1 sample every 10 seconds, and 1 sample every 20 seconds. When I now look at the distribution of 20-second voltage differences for the conifer, I get a highly significant effect. Now I must look at the control data and hope that there be no effect. We have a mixed result considering plant and control. At 20-second decimation, we have a significant plant effect, but no significant control effect. This is what we expected and hypothesized. But at 1 second decimation, we have the exact opposite. No significant plant effect, but a significant control effect. This is unexpected. If we only consider 20-second decimation, then we have strong support that plants indeed show different electrical signal patterns during geomagnetic events. If we consider the 1 second decimation as well, we see that there is no effect in the plant system, but instead an effect on the control. What this definitely tells us is that both plant and control behave differently during geomagnetic storms. We now also have to consider the following. Is this altered plant behavior during geomagnetic disturbances simply a reaction to an environmental factor which in turn reacts to geomagnetism? To exclude this possibility, we must look at temperature, humidity and pressure and perform for each the same analysis that we did on plant and control voltages. That is, we have to compare the behavior of a given environmental factor during geomagnetic storms to all other times and see if it differs significantly. If all three environmental factors' behavior show no difference between disturbed and quiet times, then this is further support for the plant geomagnetism hypothesis.